started. Okay. आउनुभयो दाइ।
Hi Tikadai, welcome. I mute my own side.
Hello everybody, sorry.
Hello.
मेरोमा त्यो गुगलको DNS ब्लक गरेको थियो कि उसमा एकछिन गुगल रहेछ अनि एकछिन टाइम लाग्यो। Hello.
हजुर.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, I think everybody here is a computer science background except Thais, I guess, right?
Me
Correct. Me too.
Oh yeah, Sondha too. Okay, nice.
And Pranab too, he's bio.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we can get started then.
Yeah, we can wait for maybe like a few more people and we can get started, maybe in 2 minutes. I think we can get started.
Okay.
Okay, good morning and welcome everyone. Welcome to the NSIS Alumni Webinar 2024. I'm Sonja Bhatta and I'm pleasured and thrilled to be your host today. And our other host is Ayush. Ayush, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Ayush Shakal Chetri. I'm a computer science major too. We MSAS as a committee, we're both excited and we're both excited to make this event possible. And we'd like to thank Tika Dai for making this event possible and answering the questions today at this webinar.
A big thank you to you, Tikadai. Now I would like to ask Tikadai to introduce himself to the audience.
Hey everybody, my name is Tika. I'm audible, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Tika. I'm a Southeastern graduate. Like you guys, I studied in the same school. Currently, I'm working at Amazon in the payments domain or payment authentication. I also work with Amazon Web Services for 2 or 3 years. I've been with Amazon for about 5 years now. Before that, also I worked with a couple of startups and a couple of businesses in Southeastern and Louisiana area, overall mostly Baton Rouge. Um, and recently, since a year, I have also started a research company, Pahari Research, where we are doing a lot of research on computer interaction, a lot of like developer experience. We are making this studio for the Web3, where people can go, without technical knowledge, drag and drop, create applications, and deploy them to like Android, iOS, just in like 10 minutes or less. So our target is to basically build an application in less than 10 minutes. You want to do inventory, you want to do small things like point of sales, so developers can actually build there. Again, that might sound very, like just another like a web studio out there. But what we want to do there is provide a continuous support such that we write new language transformers over time. And then the code never becomes like outdated. That's the whole point. So that with the idea behind the project is to make sure that code written any day can, like even 100 years from now, can work in the same way that it is working today. We have a lot of problems in technology regarding that. You might have experienced things with developer desktops. Code works, it doesn't work somewhere else, and things like that. So we're trying to work mostly to improve a developer experience on the research. That's mostly about it for me to get started. We'll probably follow up with more on Q&A.
Okay, thank you so much. We have two segments. We have some questions to ask, and we have some questions from the Instagram account the poll that we did on Instagram. So the first question we have is, working in Amazon, how important do you find teamwork and collaboration in your role?
Um, but the importance of teamwork and collaboration, I mean, to be honest, that's regardless of any institution that you work at. It's very important recently, because if you think about how the work culture has changed from being in person to remote to a lot of hybrid, um, you know, like systems, and then you'll notice that people are very disjointed from like each other. People do not have a common mindset. It's not just about having shared hobbies and things like that. It's also sharing that mindset when you are in person, things like that. So however, if you're able to have a very like a good communication with your teammates, managers, and things like that, you can keep that alive. Otherwise, I have noticed that teams quickly fall into disarray, and it's very hard to bring things together. They are continuously blocked on each other. That is something that I have noticed. That people seem to be very focused on their own, which is not very good for the team. And also, if you think about it, if the team does not grow, it will not grow as well. So yeah, it's very important, I would say, especially with the smaller team. And you'll notice one thing, even in the larger companies, that they will still try to keep that startup culture. For example, Amazon has this concept called two pizza team. So at most, you'll be working with 10 to 12 people at a team. So even the largest organization will still feel like a small team that you are used to working with, and you'll be actually discussing in complete detail with your teammates, regardless of whether they are senior or they have just started.
Nice.
Thank you for that. So the other questions we have is, can you share a positive experience working with a team on a project?
Positive experience working with the team on a project. Um, yeah, I think the positive experience is like, here's the thing about team culture. Like if the team is really good, they will help you when you are not there, right? So that's the thing. Like sometimes one of the things is that last couple of months ago, I had to take a emergency vacation for over a month and a half. So having a great team culture allows you to do that. And I'm not just saying that you have the right to take vacation and things like that. You are more about you not being there. The team is able to work with you. Team is able to get all those kind of things and continue growing. Right? So there are various aspects of team culture, though. This is like I'm pointing to one specific direction of things, but if we we're going over the team questions over and over, but I mean, I would say that even teams, right? To think about even smaller units of teams, like 3 or 4 people, and you'll notice that if there is a great communication between your teams, that then you can really improve on it. And for me, that great communication has provided over time, regular like things that I can do. For example, I've been able to clearly communicate with my team about my research works and things like that, and they actually enjoy it. They want to see more, and they want to use the technology that comes out of it, right? So. But some people choose not to communicate with their teammates, and that culture of being emotionally close flows all the way to technology. Once you are close to people, even when they talk, you have a shared vocabulary, not just in terms of technology, but also in terms of how you grow together and then work on the same project and things like that. Yeah, very important part of the team culture, I would say.
I absolutely agree with that. Teamwork is like very important in any field you work, not just in computer science, but any field that I guess the audience will agree to. Um,
Hey,
the
I
next,
have one question though. So, like, are we allowed to ask follow-up question? Like, if
yes,
I
but if you don't mind, can we keep it for the last?
last second.
Okay. Um, so the next question I have is, so since after you graduated, how have you seen the computer science field evolve? And are there emerging technology or trends that you find particularly exciting?
Yeah. Again, here's the thing, right? Like if you have a hammer in your hand, everything looks like a nail, and then, everything seems like you can solve with a hammer. So I'll just dive straight into AI, and probably that's what a lot of you are expecting to. I would be a little cautious about that, though. Sometimes so there are two aspects of it. There is one computer science aspect of it where you go, you model it, and there's a lot of work around it. Like if you think about even the chat GPTs and new chat models that they have developed, they had to go through huge computational work to get there, right? And once you have it there, and now it is available for general people to use it, right? So you can go there and ask questions and things like that. So having said that, there is still a lot of people are worried about how technology, has evolved to, take jobs and things like that. Again, it will definitely impact, right? Economy always changes in regards to how technology has evolved, right? We do not have people who sit on the telephone circuits and change the number lines anymore. We can directly dial to people without having somebody change the circuit, right? So, I mean, that does not, I mean, it definitely took away the job from the people who were working in the switch circuit boards, right? So, I understand that, but in regards to AI, I think it is here for us to make our life better. That's how I always say it. And in a lot of our research also, we try to keep that in mind, right? So how to take AI together. A lot of emerging areas on AI have been a lot towards, like if you look into how AI is being used today, it's a lot into like having a conversation or generating like images or other assets for using. Like for example, you can generate like essay from it. You can generate a video from it, right? Things like that. So these are the side of AI that we use as computer scientists, right? We have to now think about how we achieve that and how we get there. And there is always going to be a potential, especially in the new emerging markets that we do this. Now, there are also, definitely other classical computational things like, working with software and working with, like, for example, developing websites, developing application things like that. I would say for the next 5 to 10 years, I think those jobs and those things will still remain there, even though they are going to be influenced by it. For example, um, using AI together, right? For example, you might ask it to find bugs in your code, and you can grow alongside it, right? That's how I see using it AI. So you might have already seen, most of you have already tried, the new models where it can write code, but it is not there to the point where it can develop full concise applications, or it can even take a point and develop more onto it, right? So it has not grown to the point where it can take away those kind of things. And again, if it does, there's always going to be something around. This is the beautiful thing about technology. Technology always has new areas and aspects to grow. And it's the thing about technology that you notice that people who are on the edge usually evolve more and grow more. So you have to be continuously learning and at least be aware on how things are. But I would say, like in a few years ago, we had this same gloat about metaverse, how everything was going to be there, and similar things about AI, that we have to really understand the limitations in terms of computational and cost around it. That businesses who have websites today cannot convert into AI websites tomorrow, because there is a huge cost involved in it. A lot of people are expecting, like, within the next 6 months everything is going to be AI. That is not going to happen. It's going to still take 2 to 3, even I would say at least a decade for this to formalize. And during that time, there is, I would say, though, in technology, there's not going to be like an overnight switch, right? Still, even when we have the best products, for example, we have had cryptocurrencies since really a long time, and they still are, as fragile as they were 10 years ago. So it takes time, and then we have the opportunity to grow alongside it. And we always should take that as as an opportunity for growth and think of it as positive.
Thank you for the answer. That was beautiful. And the other question we have is, there's some stuff in life that life teaches us except in school. So the other thing is, what aspect does the school fail to teach us, but is important in the professional life?
Yeah. I think school fails us in two ways. I have seen that. One of the things school fails us in terms of emotional intelligence. Right. This is one of the things that is under talked over, like, and not very much brought into discussions, but like having some degree of high emotional intelligence always helps you, especially if you are in a group setting, right? For example, at your work, if you are able to properly communicate, again, it's not just about communication, but have some kind of some emotional relationship with your coworkers or with your manager and things like that. You understand when they are not performing, right? For example, we are all human. Sometimes things are not working for us great at life. We are going through different things. We are going through different growth. Maybe things are not priority to us. But if you are able to be in somebody else's shoes and see through their eyes, then we can see how they would feel and how they would be in that situation, right? A lot of times, school teaches us to be performant in terms of quantitative numbers, in terms of quantitative growth and things like that. But it's also the qualitative growth in our mindset that is important, and it's very important. It might seem like some of the things that are nice to hear. You have to become nice, but you have to be genuinely nice. Not like you become nice for the sake of being nice. But again, we can go as much as we can go deep into that. It's very subjective, to be honest. But that's one thing that school fails us is actually, you guys can go ahead and look more into how emotional development can help us. And I'm not the expert on this matter, but that is something I have seen. And the second thing that school fails us is actually in terms of financial education. Um, Give me 1 second. A lot of times, what I've seen with wealth, fortune, people taking jobs and things like that, is that a lot of times people, again, I've recently have a lot of interest in macroeconomics and things like that, and I do a lot of stock investing and things like that on my spare time. How school fails us is that there are a lot of situations where we fail to find a better alternative for us, right? There is this concept of penny in economics where they think that humans are all rational, but that's not the case, right? For sometimes we act so irrationally in situations where, like a lot of times it's not defined to the point where it's not always driven by money. Sometimes, for example, you might choose to give up some of, like, some of the benefits because it's too stressful. For example, let's say me filling out a form online gives me $10. I may choose not to do that. It's not just about money. It's also about me having to go through that, having to find a document and find out maybe a number that they are looking for, things like that, right? So we basically fail to account for what it costs to us in terms of mental health, what it costs to us in terms of other things in life, right? So and again, especially with students who are starting as interns, who don't actually become W2 employees. You are actually like 1099 contractors, and then a lot of times you do not even realize that you have to pay taxes on it later at the end of the year, or like even choosing the right bank. Your bank might have a fee, or like you might have a better chance with the alternative credit card, or like paying bills, right? So a lot of other things that like especially and when we coming from Nepal, where a lot of these things are even not even discussed. Right? Forget about being taught, right? Like a lot of these things are not even responsibilities of people until they are like really 25 or 30. But here it's a little different. So I would say that that's something that you look online, research on, see, like even if you have $100, right? How to grow, how to save, and those kind of things, right? So I think that's another aspect that school could do better. I wouldn't say, I would not go straight forward and saying school fails us, because there are financial education classes that you can take, obviously, but it's not part of a culture where this is communicated or discussed or even made a composite subject or things like that. I mean, we have language credits that are necessary, but we don't have credit like anything in terms of how you grow financially, how we, like, for example, it's not just finances, right? Again, finances tied to personal growth in terms of jobs, like how to take how to find mentors, how to grow in your job, or like how to even ask your manager whether you are doing better or not. Like people have all these kinds of things that they cannot bring forward when they talk to their teammates in professional life, and a lot of things can be like probably got better if we have a I think I went a little bit tangent from finances to the job, but yeah, I'll just wrap it up there.
Thank you so much. The next question I have, I guess this is a question that everyone like wonders about. So, are there any skills and areas of knowledge that you've had focused on during your academic years, like as an undergraduate? What are the skills that you have like thought about? If I had did this, I would have been a bit more better than what I am. Maybe not for you, but then just some skills.
Yeah, I think especially in computer science, since majority of the participants are here from computer science, I mean, it applies to other things as well. It's actually to practice, right? It's not a skill set, but it's more of a discipline. It's more of a cultural thing. Like for example, a lot of times, even when we have designs in our head and we go to implement it and we see, oh yeah, it won't work because of this, because we've not looked into it, right? So a lot of times I would just say that practice makes perfect. There are so many different sides of things. You might know there's like even just from language standpoint, there are so many programming languages. There's frameworks to work with, front end, back end, and so many areas, right? And just like even analyst or things like that. So try, especially when you're in school, try to gauge what you like. That's one thing that I thought that I should probably have done earlier, and enjoy. Like, do I enjoy everyday programming? Like, try to know about what you want your career path to grow, and try to figure this out as early as you can, right? So that you can take courses in the like last semester. Like, there's a lot of optional classes that you can take. For example, you might say, I want to do a lot of math related programming. You might want to take math related courses, or you might say, oh, you know what, I don't enjoy programming as much. Maybe I want to do analysis and want to have a proper like sit down with the client, get the requirements, your channel through. It's more like maybe I want to also know something on the management side. How do I deal with this kind of thing? So I think figuring that out is really helpful to your career. I would say it's not just always about, I guess, hard skills. Sometimes you want to grow your soft skills as well.
Okay, got it. Thank you for that. And the next question I have is, what are your current goals and aspirations? Current career goals and aspirations.
Um, Currently, uh, yeah, there's a lot of projects that I'm tracking. It's like 5 to 10 different areas of things. For example, I'm working a lot with technologists in Nepal to help them grow. Like for example, a lot of schools, a lot of companies, and also like we are educating, political leaders on how to grow. What we want to actually achieve there is that we want to have some like digital democracy, some form of good governance where people are like it's more auditable, right? So especially in the financial sector, like what happened to the national budget? Where had it gone? To which district did it go? And from that district, what section? So we are trying to push towards a better outlook into the democratic components like finances of the state, or for example, criminal records, or a lot of other things, and then introduce Web3 into it, such that people who have access to it can properly navigate through it and then actually get information out of it. And it's also available for auditors to see and verify and make sure that like it's basically to try to have a better technology assisted democracy. And we're doing a lot of research around it. It may sound a little in the future, but once we get there, it's gonna be especially for like countries like Nepal, where a lot of technological exposure is not there, and people can just walk away with any forms of injustice or like crime, and it's not recorded. Like, so you go from one police station to another police station, still on paper, they're not sharing information properly, so it's difficult to even tackle crime and things like that. So having that framework and infrastructure and having it supported technologically is going to be a lot better for citizens in the future. And that's what I'm focusing on recently. I mean, obviously there are other short-term goals, like growth, growing the company. We are like I said, we're working on this project called Zero.app. It's a I call it the Zero project. It's been in for a while now. What we're trying to do is introduce this Web3 to normal people. Like, for example, let's say you wake up and then you want to have your schedule. Like, you want to have, like, for example, when did you go to music or things like that. And you can totally have your own app, your own assets and things like that. I won't go too much detail into it, but it's basically I'm trying to get people to be more, not just get familiar with it, but use technology such that they become owners of their own information, and not have to like depend on larger companies and things like that. And it doesn't cost much, right? So it's like, you might know that like a small Linux instance is like $5 a month, and you can do a lot in that. And so we're trying to push people to use their own resources, use their own computers, and do these things. Obviously, nearly everything is available as open source, so you can just, it's a matter of getting it there, right? So for example, wouldn't it be nice if you had your own email server? Like, nobody is spying on it. Gmail does not know when you went on the flight last year, all these kind of things. But a lot of people don't have that exposure, so we can provide that for like $1, and people can just have the email service as their own. So we're looking at from the perspective where how technology can be used better and make life better for people.
Thank you so much. Right now, we're moving on with our Instagram questions. These are the questions that students ask on Instagram. So my first question is, any favorite project that you created? I guess you've answered most of it, but then any favorite project that you created during your undergrad year or in your lifetime?
Yeah, I had this project called Everest PHP. It's it's in GitHub. It's one of the most interesting and controversial projects when I was working in Southeastern. I got into a lot of interesting debates and learned a lot on it. The project is basically my idea of .NET framework implementation in PHP. It's more like having the MVC design in PHP. It was a very nerdy work, I would say, designing a framework itself, not just an app. And again, designing that, it's been an evolving thing. After that, the Zero project basically comes a lot from that. We basically have been growing around those things, although it has been a completely new project and has been totally new from the ground up. But in terms of, when I was in Southeastern, we had this project of PSP, and at that time nobody did PSP, and we have this huge pushback from everybody, not wanting to write PSP, and even getting the permission to do that, and it was interesting, and it was very much fun for us because a lot of other participants of that class were doing like making apps and things like that, which were a lot of visual, and I was more like, we write, like, we were opening up text editors and showing people how this is so cool and things like that. So, I mean, for those people who understood it, it probably was cool, but it probably was not to a lot of other people, and it's like kind of a learning thing. And I guess, but it worked out beautifully for me because that project came into a lot of talks later while I was doing for jobs and interviews, and a lot of times that project viable here and things like that. So
Thank you for that. So, as we all know, you've been working on Amazon, and the question on Instagram we got asked is, how long did you prepare for your Amazon interview?
I think I see you're muted or something.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can actually hear you.
You can be right.
Yeah, I could hear you too.
Hello, hello?
Can you hear me? I can ask the questions.
Yeah, you can ask.
I can hear both.
No worry.
Yeah, same.
I'm sorry. Is the audio out?
No, you sound good. There's nothing wrong with the audio.
Yeah.
Hello? Hello?
Hello. सुनिरहेको छ?
Are we waiting for Tika to come back online?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry for that. Some technical issues on my side.
Okay. So, as we all know, you've been working on Amazon, and some of the people over here might be like targeting towards like going to getting an interview on it. So, the question is, how long did you prepare for your Amazon interview?
Okay. I mean, that depends, right? Like, obviously, since it's a little different for me because I kind of was working in areas that would help me to get the job, right? So it's a little different. I've had some of the experience around, and I've been communicating with the teams. I would say though, like if you're targeting to work, let's abstract it out a little bit and make it more general for companies like Amazon or like Microsoft, Google, or any of these companies, right? How long do you prepare, or what do you prepare? That might be like something that people want to know. So here's the first thing. How long do you prepare? I mean, it depends on you, right? Like for me, it was about a month and a half. Obviously, that's a very short time frame. But I had the advantage there that I had already had access to some of the like structure of how the interview or how the things are going, right? So I have always looked into those kind of things way earlier, like even years before that. Like for example, if you look into general if you look into how companies hire, there is a very general pattern. It's very important to know, especially for like for new people. It may be like, okay, wow, that's the job so far out, like it's a great company, it may be difficult, but it is really not, right? But you have to still know how it works. It's very similar to taking a SAT test, right? So think about, if you do not know how the structure is, that test is going to be very, very difficult. Like if you go in, you don't know how many passes are there, you don't know how much time you have to allocate for each passes and things like that, right? So it's going to be very difficult. But once you get in the structure, it's going to be like much easier. Similar thing with Amazon or Microsoft or any other companies is that you prepare for a specific set of questions, things that they are looking for, right? So what they are looking for, and I can give you like literally bullet point notes on that is, so like for example, when you apply for Amazon or anything for the first time, they will generally send you either assessment to work with, and then probably are followed by a phone interview. So that's the first thing. Assessment is basically they'll send you a question, and they will have you write the code for it, and you'll have to submit it, right? So that's the first step. For that, what you need to pass that test probably is to practice a lot of like a lead code problems and things like that, right? And again, when you practice it, you can actually look for what are the questions asked, and somebody will have already leaked this information, right? So that's the beauty of internet, right? So you just ask what are the questions that were actually asked in Google interviews or actually asked in Amazon interview, and I sometimes Google it; they are out there again. It's not always there, and you might have to go through a lot, but it will be there. And then the second part is the one that is the interview. And sometimes you might have a phone interview in the middle, but it's just like getting to know you, and they might ask some questions about the assessment that you did in the beginning. Now the interview is the part where you have to probably structure a little bit. There are going to be around 4 interviews, and they specifically check 4 different proficiency levels and 4 different areas. It's like how SAT test is reading, writing, and it's very objective. You might think like, oh, I did this and that, but it's like they are very much looking into mathematically looking into how you do it, and they are scoring you based on that, right? So the first, again, it won't be the first, it can be in any order, but the first one is about data structures. So they will ask you to solve a problem related to data structures. They will give you a problem where you can use either a linked list, hash map, or something to easily solve a data structure. So this question, although they will still ask you to solve a problem, but it will be more about simply using a right data structure will solve this problem. So it's more about being familiar with data structure. The second interview is mostly going to be on quality of code, how you write it. It's more of like they'll ask you to uh, write abstract methods. They will ask you to write shared code. They will ask you to write something. And this interview used to be like whiteboard, but nowadays they might want you to write complete code. This section of the interview, you will have to actually come out with proper fully written code. Like for example, in the data structure, it may not matter as much. They are more thinking about how you think. They are trying to pick up your brain about why you are choosing this data structure, what is the pros, what is the cons of these things, or can you solve this problem differently using a different data structure and things like that, right? So that interview, it may not matter as much, but in the code quality interview, you have to actually come out with a highly qualitative code, right? It's actually writing like proper classes, writing choosing good language and things like that. It's maybe very difficult to achieve in Python, so you might want to write this in Java. Like for example, I chose to do that in C#. The third interview is very likely going to be a design interview. A design interview is they will ask you, for example, design Twitter, design Instagram, design a parking lot. It's a whole comprehensive question on how you think. In this interview also, you are very unlikely to write code. They may ask you to write code, but they will be more interested in seeing how you think. For example, how you structure classes. If there's a database needed, what are going to be the database tables and columns and things like that. So this is the component, design component. And this interview, they will focus very much on this interview. Actually, this interview is usually taken by a bar raiser. A bar raiser is somebody in the company who has taken so many interviews, and they are really well respected, so they can say no and entire interview will be thrown away. So basically they have the entire they have the vetoing power on rejecting a candidate. They don't have approval power, but they have only vetoing power. So they can say no, but they cannot say yes alone. The 3 yeses are required out of 4, right? So it's like a 75% vote needed. And again, it's not always that. Sometimes you still get away with 50%, sometimes. But this is a matter of discussion. But a good rule of thumb is you get 3 out of 4 interviews. And the fourth interview is going to be very similar to the assessment that you did in the beginning. It's going to be your core competency question. So they will just ask a programmatic question, like reverse an array, do this, string manipulation, things like that. This fourth interview is likely going to be taken by your manager, and it's one of the simplest interviews because you have already done the assessment. That's why it's simpler. But in this interview, you'll talk a lot about how you are as a person. They will take an opportunity to dive into your emotional component, behavioral component, and things like that. However, these are the first segments of the interview, but I only talked about the technical component of it. Each of these 4 interviews will have the first 20 minutes allocated for your personal questions and things like that. So this time they are not talking about tech; they are more talking about you as a person, right? So, and this is the part that a lot of people who are really great at technology can actually have to practice, because this is the part that people find it very difficult. And how to practice for this interview is very simple. First, you have to find out what does this company believe in, right? Each company has their own principles called leadership principles. For example, it's an Amazon, the Microsoft, they have their own principles. And each of these interviews, they will ask 1 or 2 questions about the leadership principles of their company. So the entire intent here is to see if you are a match for the company. For example, the questions that I often ask, or I was asked in the beginning, are like, for example, Amazon has this leadership principle called customer obsession, ownership, insist on high bar and things like that, right? So for example, if I have to ask a question related to customer obsession, I'll say, can you tell me about a time? It's always going to be in this format. They'll always tell you, can you tell me about a time when, and then this thing comes in. Well, you raised the bar at customer obsession, or you had a problem with the customer. How did you fix it? For example, they'll ask you, you had a problem with the manager. You wanted to do something. It didn't work out. What happened there? How did you deal with the situation? So they are only looking for how are you going to deal with the situation at hand, right? So again, this will happen in each interview in the first 20 minutes or last 20 minutes. And then it depends on each company. So for example, a company which is very obsessed on customer might ask a question about customer obsession. A company very obsessed about quality control might ask questions related to that. But there will be very general questions that if you go through this, there, and the most common questions are like, tell me about yourself and how do you see yourself growing. So these are the behavioral questions they call it, but they are always going to be driven by what a company is looking for in you, and how you are a match. So when you answer it, you have to be very specific in that. Like you're trying to tell them that you are still a great match for it, and they have this format called STAR format of answering. It's very common. The STAR is basically situation, task, action, and result. So what was the situation that you have? What task, what was the situation? What task was at hand? What action did you take? And what was the result out of it, right? So if you give an answer in this format, you're walking away with a great positive review on a behavior. I mean, I'm sorry, I've been telling this for a while. So if it does not make sense, you can ask me a sample question and we can probably, guess through it. But it's simply going to be asking questions about, in a situation, how did you behave for a leadership principle that we're working on. All right, so light water. Right?
Okay, we have our next question.
I might have to. Sorry about that. Yeah, my video may not work, but I'm still on the call.
Okay. So our next question from a student is being weak in math a drawback for computer science majors?
No. Weak in math is very. So a lot of math that is used in computer science is simply algebra, right? And there might be a little bit of trigonometry if you are doing like a higher order functions, like if you're doing a lot of geometry, like if you are, let's say, designing a lot of 3D elements and things like that. It's very higher order of things. So those are the areas where I see trigonometry being used, but in my 10, 15 years of experience, I've used trigonometry only in 2 projects so far. So most of the math you need is basic algebra and problem solving. So there is a focus on math on especially if you are interested in following the areas like, for example, assembly and a lot of lower or operating system codes like that. But even that math is not that complicated. Now there is a general area of computational mathematics, like if you're looking into different areas of cryptography and things like that, where your knowledge of math might help. But again, as I said before, you can drive what you want in your career. Like you can decide where you want to go. So if you want to do general programming, if you want to develop applications, work for be like a computer engineer, that generally how we see most people working, and you would probably not have a problem with it.
Okay, got it. Thank
So
you
a
for
lot of
that.
people are safe here.
So the next question I have is, as everyone goes in the middle of their career year, they are looking for an intern, and the question we got asked is, what are some ways to find internship effectively? Okay, for you.
That is excellent question. Actually, one of the questions that we get asked, and it's as a company, when we look to hire, it's very difficult, right? So we want to give opportunities. Don't get me wrong. Like we enjoyed working at interns, and we know how it is important for people to get this internship and then opportunity for them to grow, right? So what you want to do as an intern is you have to sell your mode. You have to be somehow different, or you have to show competence even before you get to the job, right? So there's this principle called ahead of promotion. So what they have the principle is that if you want to be promoted, you have to be already working on that level, right? That's how they tell you. So same like this, you want to be an intern, if you have like some projects around that, it's gonna help. So when you look for internship, you have to look the areas that your experience matches. It's gonna be easier for you to tell a story, right? It doesn't even have to be in programming. It can be a story. For example, there might be a company which is working around, let's say, let's give an example. I worked with this project called Fusion Stack for police officers and judges for electronic warrant processing. But now that project is on a completely different side. But if I was looking for internship, anything remotely close to that, then there's a great story to share, right? For example, it doesn't even have to have a language or framework that I'm looking for. So if you have had work with anything, like, and I'm not saying it has to be professional work, right? It can be a project. It can be something like, okay, there might be a coffee company, and you can say, oh, I had developed a sample coffee app, like, or something like that. So you have something already easier that hooks you up, right? Like, so basically, lets you get there in the company and have a shared vocabulary at least. So that's why what I think is very important. For example, let's say you might have worked at a library, and then this company is making library management system, right? So yeah, you have not worked with the software at this point, but your knowledge of the library systems is going to bring you up there, right? So it's just try to find out when you apply for jobs or companies, because you don't want to oversaturate with like so many jobs, so many interviews and things like that. You want to be focused on small set of things that are achievable and that are that are doable, right? So when you apply for these kind of things, you want to prioritize areas where you have some exposure to. So that is going to be very easier for you, and you are going to feel comfortable at the interview too, because there are going to be many words that you have heard before. So it's going to be a better experience on you as well. Also, as a student, try to like by the time you are nearly graduating, have 4 or 5 projects on GitHub or something. It's not that difficult. A lot of things are open source. Even using a tool is okay. Like, for example, you using an external library and doing just a small weekend thing on it is fine, but make a habit of putting it in GitHub. They definitely look into like GitHub and LinkedIn for this kind. So, like, I think a great LinkedIn profile and accordingly great GitHub is very necessary for computer graduates, and then that's going to be like a very easy path to, I guess, getting internship.
The next question we have is, did you ever see the need to hire a lawyer when you were exchanging visas? And if yes, how was your experience? Hmm. Did you got cut off?
I think he just rejoined the call.
Yeah, sorry about this. Having a technical issue here.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess we can move on to the next question.
Okay. So the next question we have is, did you ever see the need to hire a lawyer when you were exchanging visas? If yes, how was your experience?
The immigration is not good. The experience is not good, regardless of whether you hire or somebody else hires. It's a matter of, I guess, you hiring basically is saying that you paying for it. A lot of times, companies do pay for this privilege. Like they will pay for the visa fees and everything, even the lawyer fees and things like that. On that note, like for example, when I was working in Baton Rouge, we did hire a lawyer, and then we worked with it. It was not a great experience. A lot of times, they're not. I think it's better to find a lawyer who has processed these cases like this in the past. The lawyer that we had not worked with like anybody just with a bachelor degree until that point, so it's not a great experience. Even though it did work out for me and my visa got approved. When I worked with Amazon to get my green card, same thing. The USCIS itself is it's very backlogged, but also the the process and everything is frustrating. I guess just bear with it and have a lot of patience. It's a lot of bureaucratic red tape, but it's how it is. I guess a lot of people are trying to change it, but hopefully, Web3 comes in and we can automate a lot of these things. So it's on us to improve. Um, but yeah, it's pretty. It was very frustrating. So I would already look at it with that lens. To be honest, my H1B visa document filing that my lawyer had submitted had my name incorrect, and it still got the visa approved. Like they mistook my name for one of the other colleagues that I was working with, Sunil Sai. So basically, it's the same Sunil Dai's name in my name. And Sunil Dai and I was not even working on the same company at that time. They messed up royally. However, I mean, the people who were looking the form on the USCIS were also probably not looking at that complete detail. So they approved it without looking as well. But I still have that document here, and we sometimes look at it and laugh at it. But that's the bureaucratic things, right? Sometimes it's just, it's I guess, something we'll have to deal with regardless.
Okay, thank you for sharing your experience according to that. And the next question we have asked is, has language been a barrier while working in the company in the US?
Not really. As long as you can get your thoughts through, it's fine. Obviously, you are going to find people in life who are going to pick on very minor details and get stuck on it. But hey, you just think that they are the one you stuck, not you. So you move on. Like what really matters? If somebody is finding your spelling of something absurd or some pronunciations of your absurd, then if you move on, you move on. They are the one who are getting stuck. So don't worry about it and just get it through. One of the things that really, really matters is writing great documents, though. Okay, right? It's one thing that is big, but a lot of times in computer science, it's the thing that gets committed that matters, right? Including docs and everything. So you have to actually get into a better habit of writing better emails, right? So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you have to write 6-page essays, but you have to be great at articulating 3 paragraphs together. For example, your manager wants you to ask them, hey, why is this task not done? You have to be great at explaining that. And this is going to make your life easier. Otherwise, you are going to be so scared. Okay, I have to reply to that email. I have to reply, and you're thinking on it. It takes you 2 days, but the whole 2 days was spent in anxiety. But if you're great at replying email from your phone, you could have written 2 or 3 paragraphs and said, "This is why it's not done. Point 1. This is what I think I should do." And one of the things that always helps is try. If there is anything that you get stuck on, try to find a format on the internet. This is where you find the internet helpful. You say, how do I reply to emails like this? How do I reply to somebody who's being very passively aggressive with me? How do I deal with situations like that, right? So ask the internet. It will tell you how to deal with it. So, but please reduce your anxiety by acting on things as fast as possible, right? For example, you have something, don't push it forward. I have this principle where if it takes more to think, then just do it. Like, for example, if it is a 15-minute task, I have to do it, and I spend 30 minutes thinking that I could have just done it and, have my mind free. So, I would say that that's a very good trait to have. And the language barrier, or I don't think that exists as much, especially in technology, but I would really suggest to not take it lightly, especially the writing part. Because when you go to companies, they want to see your design docs, they want to see how you write, how you express your things, how you put it together concisely, and those kind of things are really going to be matter, especially if you want to grow higher, like you're going to be principal engineers or senior leaders in the company, right?
So
People
that
speak Hindi in Amazon all the time. It's mind-boggling how people speak Hindi, Chinese, like all the languages, mother tongue, even when they're discussing
works and things like that. So language, I would say, especially in the West Coast, not a problem at all. Like they don't. I don't think there's very. I would say there is very little judgment on things like that, especially on tech.
Very good to know that, actually.
Yeah.
That was the last question we had from Instagram. Now I would like to open the floor. If the audience has any question, they can ask Tika Dai right now. Moish, you can ask your question.
Hello, Tikadai. Thank you for taking time to prioritize us despite your busy schedule. So I'm a transparent freshman at Southeastern, majoring in computer science. So my question is how to keep tech motivation alive even after the Iron Man movies in, and you realize you're not a Tony Stark in the real life. You know how it goes. Like you have a movie and you get all hyped up. So basically, how do I keep myself motivated to learn new things?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess to keep yourself motivated, right? It's just it's the duality nature of this knowledge and interest, right? So you cannot develop interest on some things without having even the basic knowledge. That's the principle, right? So like for example, I have to have some exposure. Like if some people are talking about metaverse or talking about AI, I'll have to at least understand like how things work, especially if you're talking like in tech. Keeping that you have to be basically, I think the short answer is you have to regularly be on top of what's happening in tech, right? And then the other thing is actually finding out what you enjoy. A lot of people, and I find this over and over with people professional 5-10 years down the line, is that they find something that is cool in that area, but they want to do something that they enjoy. Right. For example, when I was doing the same thing with the user interfaces, I was doing a lot of visual UI, and I did great UI. Like I got great response and feedback from it. Everybody said this is awesome. Like I made pages for Disney's mixed music and so many things. But that is not something I enjoyed it. I mean, I always had a great taste for colors and how things work together. That just made me better at designing this color and visual components. But I never enjoyed that. I always enjoyed how problem solve, how when a unit test pass, I enjoyed seeing that green check, right? So it's also like if you find the area that interests you, you're going to be probably at a place where you are going to you are going to push yourself to do better. The other thing is a little bit of underrated thing, and it's almost towards the end, is to understand like a little bit of schedule of yourself, right? So for example, sleep is very important. Now, yeah, I have been there. Like I have slept at 3 a.m. all the time, and so don't get me wrong. But nowadays, you might be surprised. I sleep at 10, wake up at 5:30. It's just like a schedule. Once you get into it, and you get to this proper sleep, and I have seen this profound changes in myself. Like for example, the mornings, like the amount of time I spend solving a problem, just like there's a monumental shift on this, right? So again, what we do, what we eat, like are you drinking, are you properly hydrated, are you thinking properly, and try to take break before meetings. So all these kind of things are like social behavioral things that we can probably learn over time, but also try to get into try to think of yourself as something that can grow and see what has been working for you and what has not been working for you. A simple example I can say is, for example, when I was working at Amazon, I had a lot of things to sort through, but I didn't know which work to do in the morning. And I noticed that if I did a lot of other people's code reviews in the morning, my day didn't go well because my brain was already like crazy with all those kind of arguments and things there. So I put that for the end of the day. And I did my own new fresh work in the morning. So like I'm just giving one example where you yourself can decide what works best for you in terms of schedule, and you can decide for it, and then that drives like the necessity of what to learn and what to grow around as well.
Thank you, Dai.
Thank you, Miss.
Thais, you can ask your question.
Thank you. First of all, thank you again for being here, Tika. So I think I'm the only one who is not from Nepal here. But I was wondering if you've been in any situation where you felt that you were in a disadvantage because you were an international student or an international employee.
Yes. I mean, that is quite unfortunate, especially working with the smaller companies because, to be honest, they can't afford it, right? The immigration thing is really expensive, and that puts them as a. I mean, it's the hiring cost, right? They have a huge upfront. And think about especially in the earlier days as interns, right? Like the interns are like for example, if the intern is paid 2,000 for a week and they have to make an investment of $5,000 to $10,000 to get through the immigration, right? Again, and it's not confirmed, and then they have to justify that they cannot find somebody here. So I see that from a business perspective. If you are to be totally honest, the business has to go above and beyond for you to like. They have to actually work an additional effort for an international employee to be there, right? So that's the problem. That's always been the problem. So that makes a kind of a almost like a capitalist argument towards where money is driving a lot of these decisions. I'm not saying people are bad, companies are bad, and things like that, but that has been one disadvantage. But besides that, I was myself surprised how there is little prejudice towards being international, especially if you go to tech companies. They're not really going to. That is not going to be even like a parameter in how anything is decided. Like either how if they become friends with you, that's not a parameter that you're for it. If they give you a job, that's not a parameter. But I will honestly say for smaller companies that it has been a problem, especially because of the financial cost associated with it, and because of which they have not been able to make that commitment and also the promise to interns and things like that. Right? So intern will try to find another employer, but also at the same time there is a problem for them. So I don't think they are doing it because they want to do it. It's more of a financially driven decision. But that is only in terms of a lot of these visas and related issues, things like that. But once beyond that, I don't think. Like for example, everyday work, not a problem. Like go to Scrum, not a problem. Like having the meetings and things like that, working with the coworkers. I don't think there is I have noticed any issues, and that's not just in West Coast, right? And like, I work with many companies in Baton Rouge too. You guys are familiar. I worked with Fusion Stack. I worked with this Zoom audits in Lafayette. I worked with Omnideck in Baton Rouge. And these companies, I'm sorry for using this word, but these companies are as white as you can get, right? So these are very structured in the South, totally. But I didn't even feel that, even in the South. So you can totally throw that away. But it's just that sometimes you will be in need of sponsorship, and that part they might hesitate because they have to work with a lawyer. They have to again. It's not just that. Like for example, when I was working in Bad News, they had not been the company had not been a participant of E-Verify, so they had to actually apply for E-Verify membership to even have the CPT extension and things like that. So a lot of companies are not ready for that, but a lot of companies realize that it's a great talent market, so they will try to accommodate you. But besides purely from those financial and a little bit of extra work, um, you can feel comfortable at least in technology. It's okay. You don't have to feel like bad or anything on that. You'll be properly accommodated for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Subin, you can ask your question. Subin?
For being here. My question is, you mentioned about how AI is revolutionizing our life, and it has been technically also helping us technically as well as in academic field. But what I have noticed is whenever I write code before the use of before there was ChatGPT, I would just try to find the uh, bug where it was. But now with the use of AI, I mean, I think I've been lazy by just putting that code into the ChatGPT. And do you think that kind of thing is going to be sustainable, or uh, is that the way we have to deal with the AI, or do you think there are other ways we have to improve ourselves? And another question is, what is the thing you like to approach when you try to learn a new programming language or anything new to you?
Okay, that's a great question, and I'll probably try to follow up with an example. It makes sense, right? So think about when you are programming, right? And then we have followed this classical model where everything has to be precisely accurate, right? But but let's say you are trying to make a box whose background color is red, right? And instead of saying background color, let's say I might say that colors dot background red. Now the system will not recognize that, right? But to a human, it is very understandable that this person is trying to make a background color red. They might have a typo on it. They might have something. This is where AI comes into play and understand it. So one of the things that we are doing in our Zero project using AI was we are letting AI decide, like for example, what was the input that the user is looking for. For example, our APIs are really agnostic of whether you use a snake case, Pascal case, or those kind of things. So it can actually look into your AI, look into your parameters, and actually decide. And actually, you can even mix those things. For example, the AI is looking for background color, and if it does not find that, it is going to try to pick color or it try to fill up parameters from the board. For example, we are looking for this parameter saying should use lock, right? For example, should use lock might not be a great name when the developer started, but some person might say, okay, this doesn't make sense. I want to say, should I use a lock? Now here AI can be helpful to understand and interpret that for us and make our life easier, right? And then probably edit that code for you. So I see there is always going to be a new area. We're not going to be sidelines for sure. I mean, it might have made us lazy, but it will get our job faster. Um, but again, you might say, okay, if the job gets faster, then where's the more job? But I can tell you, in technology, there is at least 50 years of backlog. Like if there were enough talent out there, and if there was like, it's not even money. You might be surprised why there is always enough job in tech. It's because if there were enough people, companies like Google, Microsoft are willing to hire so many people right now to do more projects, because there are always projects pending. Like there is this large level of projects that they always want to work on. There are always going to be sufficiently large amount of jobs in tech. Like there are like many projects even in Amazon that today we have to put aside because we don't have enough resources, right? Again, by saying that they don't want to hire anybody, they still need to fill the bar, raise the bar, and be there. But I'm pretty sure we're not going to be sidelined. If you think it is made us lazy, then you can think of it as it is taking care of some of the things that we probably should not have to do in the first place. Like for example, when you write an essay on Word, it just autocorrects some of the spellings for us, right? It's just like been like that forever. So why not just have that intake? That has not made us lazy. I mean, we can argue whether the spelling autocorrect has made us lazy, but I would say there will be use case of it where it will help us understand, interpret things that has not been possible in classical computing. Like in classical computing, as you know, even the smallest thing throws it off. Like you cannot have the slimmest line of error. Here AI can understand what you are trying to do and make those decisions for you and probably suggest a new approach for the future. It can say, okay, you tried this one, but here's the better way to deal with this situation. And you can adopt that, and that can be a part of permanent workflow.
Thank you for the answer.
Right. So I have one follow-up question on that. So when you said there's, let's say, like 50 years of backlog in the technology industry or technology, right? So like, is it mainly because of the resources limitation that we're still not able to, we don't have that equipment to solve it yet? Or like, what is it that like big companies are not into those projects or are in the backlog?
A lot of times it's not just equipment, it's actually human resources that they don't have. I don't know if it is like sometimes driven by finances, but a lot of times these companies have very large balance sheets. If you look into their company structure, they might be hedging it for long-term future. But if you think about how quantifying works, we always discuss in setting priorities. And then in Amazon, when we discuss, we see this pattern where we are deciding things for 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. That work has been allocated. That will be done by somebody 5 years down the line. That could have been done today. If it's just we are setting priorities because we are deciding based on the business outcome. But if there were enough resources, this discussion always comes up. If there were enough resources, we would do this, we would do that. Like for example, take the example of Boeing, right? If they have enough resources, they would probably do better quality control, or they would probably get more planes out there and things like that. So I think there is a lot of worry about AI. I would not be, but I would try to grow and learn with it.
I see.
Okay. right? Like a lot of times when these frameworks, like when Bootstrap came, a lot of people saying, oh, now CSS, people who do CSS, their job is done. But people actually who did CSS worked with Bootstrap and they were able to make CSS faster then. So it's not, when a new emerging technology comes forward, you work with it and you grow your skills alongside and you be an integral part of it. So you become the AI pioneer. So when there is like even one job out there, you become the person who was that job because you are in that technology there, right? So yeah, I mean it's the new age of AI. I understand there's a lot of confusion, things like that, but learning and growing with it is probably our best strategy with AI.
Yeah, just another question on that. So, like, among the backlog, right, in the Amazon, is there any like your favorite particular project you wish Amazon had started to work on, or you are interested in, like, but it's still in the backlog, and Amazon might work on that in like few 5 years, 10 years down the road? Any specific
Yeah.
project of yours?
So we had this idea called payments in a box in Amazon. Actually, we even filed a patent for it. It's a patent pending on my name and a couple of teamworks so that we are working on it. The idea is basically Amazon has this very large frameworks for payments. So when you go to Amazon.com to pay or subscription or anything, any partners with Amazon. So right now, this is very large data centers, all isolated and a lot of troubles. What they want to do is they want to put all this software together as a box, like a Docker container, and they want to ship it wherever you want, quickly deliver and things like that. The quantity of work there is like it's alone worth 5 years for the entire team of 200 people working there. That's how much work was decided, and we decided that we cannot do it today, like with the human resources or tools that we have today, and then we basically put it aside for the next year for review. So likely what might happen is if we get a lot of headcount, like it's a next year we hire 100 more people for Amazon, we might do that project. Or like, if something like AI comes into play and say it can rewrite the code for us, then we might do it. The AI part is very, very unlikely, it's at least not in the next 10 years. So that's one of the projects that's very interesting, actually, smaller cellular payment systems. I don't know if you guys have worked with payment systems, but there's a lot of steps involved with how payments works, how adjustments happens on the payments that you have made, credit cards after you tip and things like that. So maintaining all that infrastructure, and on top of that, there are laws from different governments, compliances, like you cannot do something like under over 500, you have to do something under 500, and you have to know every rules of every country that you operate in when you work on this. So these are not simple problems. So that is where we are trying to make a general project that can be reused and that can be shipped together. And when I say one project, it's going to be like 500 repositories, to be honest. It's not like one repository, but still they have to work together, right?
So there are that many bugs in Amazon payment right now?
There are, sorry, how many?
Like that many? You said, I don't know, like, the team of 200 people are still not able to solve it. So those are basically the bugs sitting on Amazon payment and needed to be solved.
It's not a bug, but it's more of an improvement they wanted. It's a new area. It's like a redesigning the project, right? So it's think about like a very old archaic system that has been there for 30 years. They want to support Bitcoin. They want to support so many things, like the technology and infrastructure. So the APIs that are there are very old and archaic, that they don't support this newer peer-to-peer payment and things like that, right? So Amazon wanted to do that, but we thought that with the current human resources, we would take like very long time and may not even be delivered in the 5 years. So, but we when we came out of the meeting, they told us that if we had 200 people, we would be very confident to deliver this. So you can think of it as like how there is a resource constraint on the human capital there, right?
I see. Okay.
And just one example. Examples like this happen, and I've worked with at least 5 teams on Amazon. I've switched teams many times, and this is like a very common pattern that like we have to always prioritize things, and it happens even in smaller companies too, like all the time, right? Yeah. So making our job easier or better, I should probably not worry much about it.
Okay, Miles has a question.
Okay, for the next question, Sarsi, you can ask your question.
Hello there. I'm a freshman at Southeastern Louisiana, and as freshmen, we have this motivation, this desire to get something done, I guess. But I often feel like I'm not using it properly, like not channeling it to the right places properly. So if there's like 3 areas that you would like me to focus on, such that I actually use this motivation to get something done, what would those 3 areas be?
Yeah, it's I mean, to be honest, it's going to be a little difficult, given that we're not much familiar with each other. But I would say, like, I think, first thing is to there are 3 areas. So first thing is, like, I think, make a maybe a mental note of your goals and things that you want to do in the next 3 to 5 years, right? That's one. Like, be goal driven. The second thing is, to find some mentorship, or have a mentor, and then have them check through your goals, right? Those are the first two part. And the third is the hard part, which is you executing those things, right? Where do you, like, if you have it written down. For example, some people write journals, that works best for you. Some people make to-do lists, some people put things on calendar. Whatever works for you. And this is how a lot of things work too, is how they work for you, decide how they shape your future, right? So yeah, so, like, have the goals, probably find a mentor to review them with you, and then work with them. Definitely, if you are finding challenges like that, I would say try finding a schedule for you. So it's one of the things that is very underrated, and I, like, when you're in college, of course, we want to party, we want to stay late, and all those kind of things. But and a schedule is not, I'm saying 1 or 2 days. It's like you have to get into habit for, like, at least a month, like your sleeping schedule. Or I'm not saying just sleep, right? If you go to gym, that gym schedule, or if you study in the morning, the studying schedule. If you get into that habit, for example, if you like spend the first, like, half hour in the morning researching what is the new technology, right? For example, finding Wall Street journals or new techniques for publications, or what are the apps that help you get into this, and you make that habit drives you for the rest of your life. It's going to be difficult to break out of the habit now. Like Moise previously asked the same questions about how do I keep growing, right? You make growing as a part of a habit, then it becomes so natural that actually not growing, makes you more anxious. Like, if you are not growing, then it actually comes back to you and haunts you. So yeah, try to drive a habit around it. Anything you want to grow or develop, try to make it a habit. It's going to be very easier, because now that becomes the normal, right?
Thank you, Zach.
Hey, I have a few more questions. So I'll ask this first. So how did you get the idea of working in the human-computer interaction field? Among there are like many fields. For example, crypto or AI, or like whatever is out there. How did you get the idea? I want to work on this Zero project and work on a computer interaction.
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, by the way, you guys can probably follow my. We actually didn't want any social media. Our company culture is like that. We only created this few days ago. The party research on LinkedIn. So you guys can follow or connect. I'll probably put. I haven't put anything, but I'll probably put some. We'll start putting information there. So my idea behind Zero Project is actually twofold. One is at a human level. I think technology has repeatedly and consistently failed us, at least in terms of how we interact with it. For example, how an iPhone looks. For example, how a Windows computer looks. There is very limited things a user can do on how an operating system works. For example, when it starts, do you want to change the behavior? Right? For example, you might want to, again, this is totally arbitrary, but you might want the computer to turn on only when the lights are off in the room. I mean, that's up to you. That's for you to decide. But today, that is near impossible to do. Like, you don't have that control. Like, and again, the other thing was not just about how we interact with it, right? So I wanted to have a project where a lot of, like, for example, personal artifacts can be put on the internet. Like, for example, I'm not saying put it on like social media, but for example, like, for example, you are forced to use Google Drive if you want to put something out there, right? Like, there's very little control. Even as like computer scientists who have been there for 20, 30 years, they still have to use this technology and have no control over it. That was one. The other one was more about, we're continuously talking about digital democracy, on how we can improve all this visibility into like government aspects, and then the artifacts that are there, right? For example, criminal records and this kind of things. We wanted to have government provide APIs for developers so that they can put that as a part of other workflows that they can work on, like housing prices, or like in Nepal, there are many agencies that still work on paper, like you need to maps and things like that. So we wanted to drive that, especially for Nepal to have the digital governance is a like social thing, but also on an individual level. I've always been frustrated by my own personal cell phone device, like how it has forced me to use certain things, and there's otherwise I have to develop an app. I know I can make an app. Like for example, in Android, I can even build a launcher and totally change the look and feel of the things, right? But building that app takes time. Building a lot of these things are not very intuitive. So we want to actually bridge that gap so that normal people can say, okay, I want to make an app for how many times I drink the coffee. The app is very simple. It just has a button. I click it, it saves that record in a database. It's totally private. It's made by me. It's my app. So that level of technological exposure is not there, and we actually wanted many people to have that exposure.
Okay, Diane, yeah, another, I mean, a question for you is so like even this question, I mean, I struggle with this as well. So whenever I'm working on a project, so sometimes we as a developer we think or we assume that hey, this feature might make a lot of impact in people, and so we work on that feature, and later on what happens is that is something we wanted, not the user wanted, right? And sometimes, a lot of times actually, it's just a wishful feature that we want. We go and we create it, but not a lot of people wants to actually use it. So how do you like, especially working on this Wave 3 project, right? Not a lot of people are engaging in it. How you determine that hey, this feature is actually going to be useful and we should invest a lot of resources into it versus whatnot?
Yeah, that's been a challenge to us as well, since we are driving so many different projects. For Zero, though, so it's always how I say is when you make a product, try to find already a use case for it, right? So when we are developing Zero project, it's not completed. We plan to launch mid this year, but we have like this nepalitickets.com, and we have a school management system that we are building to test against how good our software is. So these are the clients that we are working with, so we can see what the clients want, what the clients are looking for, how their experiences, things like that. So it's always testing your product, right? Sorry, I have to drop. Oh, sorry, Thais says sister has to drop, and I also have to drop in the next 5 minutes. So let's try to wrap it up at the same time. But yeah, sorry, I lost my chain of thought there.
No, you're saying nepaliticket.com and school, how you
Yes,
test
we're
cases.
basically testing a product with another client or product. So basically, we had this client lined up who's willing to use our technology and see how it behaves. So once we're confident on that, we'll probably like put it on LinkedIn and share it with more people. Send it out to people to try it and things like that. Yeah, but in the beginning, we had a testing in like client and
And so
to really give us the feedback, right?
okay. So basically, you have someone using it right now, and then you just develop it accordingly, right? Whatever their uses is and whatnot. Okay.
Yes.
So then another question is, you being technical, I guess, founder, right? Technical founder. How do you get engaged in this kind of, like you said you have like around 5 projects that you oversee? How do you actually contribute to those projects? Do you like actually involved in technical side of it? Like helping developer review code and stuff like that, or you just sit
Yeah,
there?
I think it's like I said, it's basically breaking down test schedules. I spent like defined time 2 to 3 hours on that project. Most of it is half of it is like on code reviews and approval, and half of it is on design reviews and thinking if they have bigger problems that cannot be solved by the other engineers in the team, they bring it up. But I just put that as a morning 2 hours, and then the rest of the day I do other projects, and then there's basically a time for each one. I make a very good use of the calendar. I guess that's one of the habits that I had.
Nice.
All right. I guess we should probably wrap it up. If we have probably we can entertain one last question. But feel free to connect with me over LinkedIn and follow. I mean, we have recently created this new page called Pahadi Research. You can follow it. We'll put some informations there, might be useful for you in the future. And then you can connect to me and send me questions there as well.
Yeah. Actually, I had a lot of questions to ask you, but we ran out of time. Actually, I saw a dream like on Thursday. We're having this webinar, and on Thursday morning, I just wrote it down all the questions, and so yeah, I have a lot of questions actually.
Yeah, Prashant, you and I can have a one-on-one on it. You can schedule a meeting with me, and we can discuss the questions specifically there, and we can go from there. Anything we can always share with the team.
So one last question, okay then. How many lead code like problems did you solve like throughout till now? Lead code questions.
Don't use this in any data thing because I have not solved even 50 lead codes ever. Like a lot of times when I was going for interview, I'd just pick up because I have had like 20, 30 different areas of work and process right now, nearly any programming language, any field. So I just try to find a bug on that and try to get familiar with it, code it, practice it. But do at least around 50 to 100. I would say that's a good range to get to the interview. Yeah.
That's like.
I guess that was our last question, right, Prashant?
Yes, I guess so. But I'll reach you out there and
No worries, Prashant.
Thank you so much, Dai, for your time. I guess most of our questions were answered beautifully. Also, I would like to add, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, everybody. All right, we'll probably have some talks down the line, a few months down the line as well. Yeah.
Definitely.
Have some Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Dai.
Thank you.
गाइज एउटा सानो क्वेसन छ एकछिन है ड्रप गरिहाल्छ कि के म एउटा एक्सेल सिट पठाउँछु होइन अनि त्यसमा चाहिँ जस्ट नेक्स्ट टाइम हाम्रो यो यस्तो वेबिनारहरूको लागि चाहिँ हल्का अलर्ट अगाडि नै आओस् होइन इन्भिटेसनहरू अथवा फर इक्जाम्पल नोटिफिकेसन आओस् यति घन्टा अगाडि चाहिँ यो छ वेबिनार भनेर होइन त्यसको लागि चाहिँ आई सेन्ड यु गुगल सिट होइन अनि त्यसमा आफ्नो नाम इमेल हाल अनि जस्ट अलर्ट आओस् नेक्स्ट टाइमदेखि भनेर अलिकति म्यानेज अब इटिरेसनमा जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ अझै बेटर हुँदै जाओस् वेबिनार भन्ने हिसाबमा है
मैले चाहिँ फर वेबिनार मेबी मन्थली एउटा एलुमनाईहरू स्पिकरहरू चाहिँ आउनुहुन्छ होला सो त्यही त्यो साइन अप गऱ्यो भने चाहिँ वी क्यान सेन्ड यु इमेल्स एन्ड स्टफ
एन्ड सो वी क्यान हुन्छ नि वी क्यान लाइक कम्पाइल दोज एक्सेल अनि मेक अ एन्सर्स इभेन्ट लिस्ट इन्भिटेसन or something like that.
I'm currently trying to reach out to biology people on the career field, and by March, in March, there will probably be a webinar on the biology field.
Nice. I think our first time, I think it went well, right, as planned. Nice.
No, he was very nice answering questions and everything. He gave a very clear and concise answers. Like even though I'm not like in the computer science field at all, like I was interested enough to go to his GitHub link and like, go look through what he's done and everything. So I think it's definitely a boost for everybody.
Actually, we should say thank you to Answers for this webinar.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything.
Okay. So guys, then yeah.
Thank Prashant for this webinar and talking to Tika, right?
And actually, thank you to Sonja, Sriza, and Ayush, and Pranab as well.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.